Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Mirror of Spirit. I'm Greg, I'm your host. I want to apologize for an issue that we had trying to get my guest on, and it's been resolved, and my guest is here, and that's all that matters. So I just want to apologize for that part. Uh, what I normally do is before the show starts, I talk about the people that I support, and I support Plotographs with Tim Miley. Plotographs is a nonprofit organization that he goes ahead and has fundraisers and actually sort of like small paracons where he has a series of guests with them. And what they do is they raise money for sheltered animals. Secondly is PKC, Paranormal Kicks Cancer, with Chris Gaskowski and Alex Wilkinson. They're out of Florida. Tim, by the way, is out of Wisconsin. Um, all these people are great people. PKC is Paranormal Kicks Cancer, and Chris and Alex have been going ahead and been doing fundraisers. They're out of Florida. They do fundraisers at haunted houses, and they'll go ahead and they'll set up fundraisers in northern Florida. Sometimes they go all the way up into Tennessee and that. So they're another great group of people. Very, very great people, and I really care for all these people. Thirdly, is the Jessica Petrie Foundation. That's a resource for expecting mothers and families of pregnant women with mental illness. Uh, that was established by her father, Howard Petrie, who happened to be the founder of PUN, Paranormal United Network. He was one of the founding members, and now it's Paralanx. So those are the three people that I support. And then I will mention the authors that I support. And I always like to go ahead and bring these up because there's a lot of people in the paranormal community that I really like their writings and I like their books. So I'm going to mention Lynn Monet right off the bat in the beginning because she's an amazing lady and an amazing author and does some great, great work. Then we have Bruce Holliday, Tobias Wayland, Adam Benedict, Kathy Kressel, Barnaby Jones, Sherilyn Cotter, Dr. Heather Lee Langdon, Ron Iacovetti, Victoria Munday, Tony Rathman, Natalie Jones, Patty Negri, Sylvia Schultz, Amelia Cotter, Rex Nielsen, David Sloan, and Christina Bloom. If you get an opportunity, you can go ahead and pick up all these. Most of these books will be available through Amazon. I will be talking to my guest about that when I bring her on. So without further ado, since we were running a little late, we're just run it over. until we're done, because this is a very important person who I always gain a great deal by listening to what she has to say. And without further ado, here's Lynn Monet.
Hi, Greg.
Hi, how are you? How are
I'm
you
doing
doing
great.
now?
Thank you
Now,
so much
now
for having me.
oh yeah. Well, it's great that we finally got you on. I
Uh,
apologize for that. This is the
you
first
know,
time that.
the planets are still doing weird things. Mercury's getting ready to go direct, and that messes with electronics and communication. So I'm not surprised that there were a few little bugs in the buggery. So, but we're here, and it's my fault we're late because I couldn't get in. But we're here, and that's what matters, right?
Right. It's awesome seeing you.
It's
It's
great to
great
see you.
having you. I know to a lot of the people that don't remember who you were when you were on all the time with us. Now that you've been super busy with everything that you're doing, you're going off in 15 directions like I do during a week, and I can never go ahead and get anything accomplished, really. Or what I do, I don't remember doing, that kind of thing. So, why don't you go ahead and tell people a little bit about yourself? And there's a lot of great things that you've been involved with, and just go ahead and have at it and start it out, and then I'll fill in whenever I can get a question.
Okay. My name's Lynn Monet. I'm an international author of the book series Omnipresent. Omnipresent and Omnipresent What Happens Next is already out on Amazon. And Omnipresent 111 Becca Drive is in print. So it's getting ready to come out here any day, which is great, which is another very hair raising event that occurred um, with me. So, anyway, so I have the series. It'll be a series of 5 books when it's completed. I also have the book Colors of Heaven, Beginnings Never End, which is a beautiful story about the act of dying and going into death and what happens afterwards, to help bring comfort to people perhaps that have lost someone, or that maybe have been diagnosed with a terminal illness, to help kind of put a different take on death and dying. I also have a book called The Gap, which two psychologists asked me to write for kids, and I'm going to be changing it now because a lot of the transgender things have changed, and I had to write it neutrally. So I'm going to be kind of tweaking that book. But it's an interesting book, to help kids that are at that age where they're dating, to talk about what you do on a date. You don't wear stinky sneakers. If your kids have, not that I'm encouraging sex, but if they're having sex and a condom breaks, they need to know what to do. Also talks about, put your phone away on a date. So it's got some good life skills in it. I am currently writing a book based on a house that I inherited of my sisters, that is called Omnipresent Gnome Place Like Home. That will also be a series of 3 books, and then I'm going to do some children's books on that as well. The second book in that series is going to be You Don't Gnome Me, because it's a story about property that I obtained thinking that it was haunted, and I handled it in a way that anybody would handle a haunting, and it turned out that it wasn't haunted. It had some elementals and fae on the property that are very, very beautiful, and how compassion and understanding can shift even the grumpiest troll, so to speak, into something more wonderful. And yes, it's turned out to be a very beautiful relationship. So I'm currently writing on that. I've actually been asked by the Fae to write these books in order to bridge the the gap between the humans and the Fae, especially right now with all of the frequencies starting to elevate. They're elevating us into the 5th frequencies, where we're going to start seeing these things, because there are a lot of things on this earth that are currently on this earth with us at this time, but we just don't see them because they're at a different vibration than we are. One of those would be even like Sasquatch or Bigfoot. I mean, he knows how to interchange his his frequency so that he can disappear when he wants to. And also, and the thing that's been interesting too, being engaged with the elementals and fae, excuse me, I don't know why I got a tickle in my throat. There are a lot of pollen in the air, is that they've even talked about Bigfoot. Because I've asked, I'm like, well, what is Bigfoot? And they're like, well, he's kind of in a class of his own. He's not an alien, and he's not, obviously a human form. Gosh, what is the matter with me? I apologize.
That's
But that
okay.
he is an interdimensional being, and he knows how to manipulate the in between the dimensions, and that sort of thing. And he is everywhere. He's not just on our planet. He's on planets throughout the galaxy. Again, that does not make him an alien, but it does explain a lot. So it's been interesting being able to engage with the fae and elementals, because I've learned a lot. What is with me? I am so sorry. I don't know why all of a sudden that tickle. It's kind of going along with somebody must be messing. Let's just put it that way, to make it that hard for me to get in on this show. And now I've got a frog in my throat. So anyway, yeah, there's a lot of darkness out there that's messing, that is trying to bait people and anchor them here, and that they just don't want you to hear this story either, perhaps, and that's why they could be messing at this time. But so that's what I'm doing. I'm currently getting ready I'm going to be starting my own podcast at some point this month towards the end. It's going to be on Ground Zero, which is the Clyde Lewis arena on the radio. However, I'm not going to be with him. I'm going to be doing something separate from him. Steve Stockton is also in that program type thing, which is wonderfully, he's amazing too. And so I'm going to be doing that. I'm currently streaming on Gaia with George Norrie and Beyond Belief. I will be in Charlotte. George Norrie is coming in with Danny and Brinkley, and I will be there. I'm not going to be on the stage as a guest, but I will be there if anybody wants to meet and greet with that as well. And I just did a newscast for Channel 6 in Georgia. I did Good Morning America for Augusta, and it looks like I'm going to be sent to hopefully, I'm going to be getting to go on to Good Morning America, the one that's worldwide. So, and talking about different things. And that's kind of what I've been doing. I did have some surgery, so I've been kind of laying low for a little while to recover from that. And so I'm just now kind of getting back on screen. I've only been doing a few things here and there. So that's me in a nutshell. I will say this, people have asked me, why I started writing the books that I did. And I've had gifts ever since I've been little, where I could see things. I can see dead people. I can see interdimensional beings. I can see fae, all of those things like that. And so these books are about things like that. But a lot of them are about experiences that I've experienced. I wrote the original book, Omnipresent, based on a house that was so haunted that I never moved into it. 111 Beckadon Drive, that's going to be coming out, is about a townhouse that I moved into hurriedly without kind of checking things over. And I found out that was haunted too. The whole building was haunted. There was a naked ghost that was going from townhouse to townhouse, pulling down the women's underwear and crawling in bed with them in the middle of the night. And I have a picture of him that I took with my own camera. So I have that as proof as well. But that's what that book talks about. With each of my books, there is a self-help section in the back for people, because it's not like you can go through the yellow pages and look up assistance for these things. Instead, they'll send the men in white coats, and then you end up with a lobotomy. I'm joking about that. They don't do that anymore, but they will admit you into the mental facilities if you start talking about seeing things that other people can't see and hearing things that other people can't hear. And that's unfortunate. I have been also on many, many shows with Dr. Jerry Marvinsky, talking about mental illness and addiction, and the fact that I can see attachments on people with those sorts of things. And so, yeah, in a nutshell, that's what I'm doing.
That's really amazing. That's what people need to hear, is you're just an amazing lady.
Aww.
And if they ever have any issues of that type, they can always go ahead, and if they can't get a hold of you, they can go through me and I'll get a hold of you, because it's important for everybody to understand. I always felt that you were one step ahead of everybody as far as the people that I knew that had
Oh,
podcasts
thank
a
you.
while ago. And you were doing an amazing job. And the things that you talked about when you were as a nurse, were sort of awe-inspiring as far as what you could see and what was going on when you used the word a death doula.
Yes.
And it's the same thing as a uh, what the the nurse that's used when a person is getting ready to pass.
Yes, it's like a death midwife. That's kind of an
Okay.
easy way to sum it up. For people like midwives bring babies in, death doulas, and I am registered and certified. We help people exit in a very dignified, wonderful way. So yeah, and we also do other things. We, even if somebody has been diagnosed with terminal illness, I'll go into their home and help them get their end of life directives in order. One thing that I have found that is very, very sad with some people that are diagnosed with, say, a terminal illness, is a lot of times they'll just go lay in their bed, curl up in fetal position, and put their cap on and wait for death. And I kind of walk in and say, every moment is precious and it's time to get your things in order. Not to lay in the bed, but to get your things in order. And I've had such a great response with that, where the next time I come, that person that was curled up and laying will greet me at the door, and they're dressed and they're shaved and everything, and they're getting things in order. It's time to get the roof fixed. You've got to make things ready for the people that you're leaving behind, that may struggle with that. So if you've got that opportunity to get things in order, that is such a blessing. Some people don't get that. They die instantly, and then they are reflecting while they're transitioning of, oh darn, I forgot to do so and so. And this gives you the opportunity. So it helps to do that too. And I deal with the families also, and talk about options and things like that for their end of life care. So,
I I the word that I was missing was hospice, because they use that around here a lot for that,
mhm.
basically the same thing, except you're, like, once again, so many steps ahead of what they do, because they're just going ahead and supplying a service. They're keeping the person, if they have to keep them sedated, they keep them sedated, and they do this kind of thing, and they might have kind words, but you seem to you've always seemed to take that ahead. And it's remarkable to know that if people go ahead and get the opportunity to read what you've written, that they're miles ahead as far as their families are concerned, even, and their loved ones, and the ones that are getting older now. So there's some of us that didn't think we were going to get back home. We got back home, and here we are, and we're getting to the point now where we have to take into consideration, start to do a little self inventory, and try to find out what we're up to and what we're doing. And I like to share this kind of a story with everybody, because it's important for everybody to understand. And there's
Exactly.
and there's a lot of people that may scoff at it and say, "No, I'm not ready yet." You know what? All you got to do is sit and listen to the program. You don't have to go ahead and say you're going to do it. It's like going into a car sales shop and looking at cars. You don't have to buy one.
Exactly.
It's up to the individual. And I know that the way you've been since the first time I met you, you've always been that way. You've always taken it a step farther. And some of the stories that you told about your nursing, you had a couple of good ones that I still remember. And one of them had to do with the color of a shirt.
Edna.
Oh, okay, so if you want to go ahead, if you want to tell that one,
I'll
and then
be.
we'll.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'll be happy
No,
to. I just wanted to say really, really quick the difference between a death doula and somebody with hospice. I parallel hospice. I don't work for hospice. The difference is I don't come in with the meds. I don't come in with the comfort measures, so to speak. In that way, I come in more of a spiritual sense. So it's more well-rounded. It's not just me taking care of the patient. I'm also taking care of the family. And I walk them through some of these things that they're uncomfortable with. Like, for instance, Edna, and I'll be telling that story in a minute, when the loved ones start to see their loved ones from the other side coming in to help collect them, or because their filters efface, they can hear the telepathy, which is the communication on the other side, as well as they can hear the physical people in physical bodies talking. People get freaked out by that, even if their person's talking about somebody in the room that the family knows, like maybe an uncle or something that passed away years ago that they all loved and knew. They still get weirded out by that whole, there's a ghost in the room thing or a spirit in the room thing. So I help make that more natural, help them to have an understanding, because the truth of the matter is we all really know we're connected with that. But because of the way that we've been raised and the way that society looks at things, even from younger ages, our parents are telling us, oh no, there's nothing there. There's no such thing as a ghost there, and they make them the boogeyman. So you become afraid of them. And that's why when, even as an adult, you're in a room and you've been conditioned that way, not to be comfortable with it, but to be afraid of it, the people will run to get the nurse for the meds to shut the person that's transitioning up. And with that, so many important moments get lost. There are periods of time that you can actually communicate with loved ones on the other side yourself through the person that's transitioning, because they can hear the telepathy and the spirit can hear you speaking as well as the person that's transitioning. But through the person that's transitioning, they can respond and give you the answer. So, and people miss that because they're afraid. However, you can ask one question at a time, wait for the answer. And a lot of times, if the person that you want to ask the spirit is not in the room, you can request for them to be retrieved if you want a specific answer from, your grandfather. Where did he bury the $1 million? You know what I'm saying? And then you would reach out to him. But the story about Edna, yes. Edna was a patient that I had. She had been totally, totally blind for 10 years. She could not see anything, no sparkles, no shadows, nothing. And she'd been on my unit for about 2 weeks. I didn't know her that well, but her family came to the nurse's station saying that Edna was seeing things, talking to people in the room that weren't there. And they had this very concerned look on their face. And so to comfort them, I said, well, let me walk back down to your mama's room and check on her, see if I can make her more comfortable, clean out her mouth, shift her pillow, something, see if she needs anything. And when we walked down to the room together, most people are sitting at a slant with their oxygen on, and she was sitting at a slant, and she's reaching into the air above her as if she's being handed something very, very precious and very delicate, because she was being very careful with it. And she was smiling. She was happy with what she was receiving. And I said to her, Edna, who is here? And she responds, George. And her daughter immediately turned as white as a sheet and had to sit down because she looked like she was going to pass out. And she said, well, George is my father, and my father passed away X amount of years ago. And then Edna pipes up and she says, and he's glad that you're taking good care of Pixie. Pixie was Edna's poodle. When George passed away, the son had to take possession of Pixie the poodle because Edna, being blind, couldn't care for the dog anymore. And he told me that he still had Pixie. Pixie was an elderly dog, but was still very much alive, and he still had her in his home. And he asked me, he said, do you think that my mom's hallucinating? And of course, in a professional setting, I can't come out and say, no, I think your father's here. It's been my experience at 17 years. I've been a nurse for 40 years. I'm going to be 62 next month. And um, so anyway, it's been my experience that loved ones do come in. So if a person passes away and there are no physical people in the room, a lot of times the families feel guilty, but I can promise you, nobody ever passes alone. Even if there aren't people in physical form there are a whole bunch of loved ones that are from the other side that are in there to help them cross over. So never ever guilt yourself that you weren't there at that bedside, because they're still very much around you. But anyway, back to Edna. So I said to the son, what do you think? Because I couldn't come out and say, what I wanted to say. I had to turn it around. And he said, well, I don't know. And I said, well, I'm not trying to change your belief system. It's been my experience as an end of life care nurse that a lot of times people, they do start seeing their loved ones. They do come in. I said, do you mind if I try something? And he said, no, go ahead. And I said, Edna, can I ask George a question? Now, George is the ghost in the room. That's the husband that's deceased. And she nodded her head, yes. And I said, what color is your son's shirt? And Edna said, yellow. Now, keep in mind, this woman can't see anything. She hasn't seen anything for 10 years. Okay. It was George that was telling her the answer. So through her, she responded. And this is one of the things. And of course, then the son it was like a light bulb went on in that moment. He's like, hi, Dad. He got it in that moment that his father's spirit was actually there. And what I was mentioning about that transitioning period and getting to have the opportunity to reach out to someone that has crossed over. I mean, how many times have you, just wanted to tell somebody that you love them one more time, or to tell them that you're sorry, or to ask them where something is, for that matter. And this is your chance. And so many people miss that opportunity because they get the heebie-jeebies of having a dead ghost in the room. Like I said, even in the case that it was their father, the young woman almost passed out because they've been conditioned for so long that these things are not real. And if they are, they're scary. So, yeah, I mean, and there have been so many other beautiful stories about the death and dying of even people with Alzheimer's that haven't spoken a word in 3 years, that then through this transition period, they have these lucid moments and they talk about seeing angels, and it's very, very beautiful. So yeah, that's Edna, and the fact that, you can, if you're comfortable, ask, who's here, and they can tell you who's there. And if you want to say that you love them, even though they can hear you anyway, but somehow, since we're in this physical body, in this physical realm, we feel like, they can't hear us, but they can, because we don't die. We shed our meat suit, for lack of a better word, and we go on. They're very much with you. They're able to be in 6 places simultaneously, as a matter of fact, which is amazing. And they are always there with you, and they can hear you. They do keep all of their senses. That's another thing too. I had somebody arguing with me one time about the smell thing, and I'm like, well, wait a minute. My mom told me that when they're on the other side, I was talking about potato salad, and didn't she miss the taste of some of the recipes that she made? And she came back and she said, well, here we don't eat. And I said, yeah, I know. She says, but we do everything by thought. And she said, so all that we have to do is think of it, and it comes to us as if the flavor and everything, as if we're eating it. That also goes for smell. It's a memory recall. And if you really, really think about it, even though they don't have an olfactory nerve, if you stop and think right now about walking into a movie theater and the smell of that popcorn popping, you can smell it, even though we're here. You can smell it. Chocolate chip cookies, pumpkin pie, turkey at Thanksgiving. You can smell it. However, on the other side, it's like on steroids. So, and if you think about a tasting something, you can almost taste that too, type things. So you can they remember the smell of the ocean and all of the things like that. So there are so many things that we assume, because we can't see them, that we don't understand how all of that works, but they do have all of their senses. So they can hear you, they can touch you, for that matter. They still enjoy food even though they're not eating it, and smells and everything, over there. So if you want to talk to them, just talk out loud. Talk out loud. They can hear you, just as plain as you can hear me talking right now. And they will find a way to respond, even if you're not open to it. Like today, I was looking all over for this thing that I had just gotten from Walmart. And I'm like, damn, what did I do with it? I'm like, where is it? Where is it? And I'm like, Mom, help me find my so-and-so. And she keeps taking me back to my bedroom. And I'm like, it's not in here. It's not in here. Lo and behold, the fourth time that I went into my bedroom, I look at my nightstand, and in a box, there it is, what I was looking for. So she did lead me, but I was just, not wanting totally to look. So they can help you find things. They can even move things, for that matter, around. And something that I wanted to mention too, if that's okay. Right now, there are so many tricksters from the darker side that sometimes will present as a loved one, or as a child, for that matter, so that they have that invitation to stay, because everything of that magnitude, of those darker things, there has to be an element of invitation, if that makes sense, or consent for them to stay. So they will come to you as something that you wouldn't be, oh, it's just that lady that walks the hallways, just let her go. Or it's just Mom. My son had for instance, not too long ago, where my mother follows him. She's one of his guides. And it was like 3 o'clock in the morning. And all of a sudden he wakes up, and my mom's standing at the side of his bed. And he's like, Grandma, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. I've got to get up and go to work. Not now. Come back later. And she just stood there smiling, and she had 3 other beings with her that he didn't recognize. And finally, she's kind of even vibrating his bed. And he's like, no, I've got to get up for work in a couple of hours. So you need to go. And all of a sudden, when she turned to walk away, from the back of her was this long reptilian tail. So it was not her. It was some other more negative, more menacing being that was posing as her, trying to receive that invitation. There's a way to determine the difference. And you have to verify now in this day and age, even if you're going into meditation and something starts to, you have to have ways to verify that you are speaking to the spirit and not something posing as the spirit. And what I've learned is for these darker things, including the reptilians, doesn't work so well with the elementals, but is that because they don't have the ability to feel joy, happiness, love, any of those beautiful laughter, any of those beautiful positive emotions, anything that you emit that way, if you start laughing, if you say, oh, I love you, or I love this, or I'm so happy, it's like a repellent, and they can't stand to linger in it. So, and on the opposite side, if it really is your mother or father, and they're standing there, if they have crossed over, they can come back and forth, but they relish in the love. They will stand there because they're giving the same thing back to you. So it's not going to push them away and make them shrivel like a raisin and run screaming out of the room. So that is a way to determine. When in doubt, even if you're not sure and you don't want to do something overt, you can simply sit there and drop into your heart chakra and envision hearts, like pink hearts, like sonar, coming out at the being or spirit. And it'll have the same effect as the spoken words. And that's also a good and effective too for people before arguments, or if somebody pisses you off in the office, if you sit and take a minute to send them that, a lot of times it could flip things for you.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Once again, for anybody that's come into the room tonight in the comments section, you know, it, Lynn is a very important person in my life in the respect that she says a lot of things that a lot of other people don't have the courage to say. And whether it's dealing with life or death, one thing that everybody has to take into consideration is, just like she mentioned, the time. And you're all sitting there, and you're paying attention, and that's the only thing. This is like a gift. She's providing you guys with a gift. This is something that takes you above and beyond anything that I can say that I've learned in the paranormal field, or even with the empath end of it, or the mediumship. Uh, Lynn is a great person to talk to about that kind of thing. Not that she's going to pick up the phone if you call her. You probably have to email her. But, that's the kind of thing. That's the kind of thing we need today. There's too much of the other part, and there's not enough of this. And as soon as I contacted her, it was like, wow, this is making my whole month. And probably my whole year, because this is a key, people. This is a key. It's a key to your heart. It's a key to your life. It's a key to your family. It can be used in so many different ways. And all you have to do is just go ahead and pay attention. And I apologize for continuing to speak, because you are the guest, and the reason you're here is that you're phenomenal.
No, you're the host. This is a show we can go back and forth. That's perfectly fine.
Well,
thank you so much for your kind words. I really, really appreciate that. So, yeah. Well, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No, I was.
These times they are weird, and they're trying to bait us. And the thing is too, is when these darker things come into you, they're vibrating at a lower level. So if you go into fear or anything like that, or if you even speak to them abruptly, that shows that you're in fear, or that you're feeling that you lose control. And that creates a lush type energy that radiates out from you, that they feed on. And it actually encourages them to stay. And it actually helps them, they feed on it, they become more energized, and they can do more physical acts. So you've got to keep that in mind too. And when you shift into the other, even if you're faking your laugh and saying I love you, they don't know the difference. The word alone coming through your mouth is an energetic thing. Just like our thoughts go out as energy, our verbalization goes out of energy. And as you're thinking of what you're going to say as far as the love, it comes out twice. It's a double whammy. So it's very, very important that even if you're peeing your pants, they don't know that. You fake it until you make it, and you will be so relieved with the results and the way that turns out, for you, that, and that's important. People have to protect themselves, right now. And it also then elevates your frequency above theirs. And so they just kind of disappear into the woodwork. They don't have any control or power over you. And there's a lot of menacing things right now. Trust me, I see them. Just really, really kind of negative stuff. But there's some wonderful things too. Absolutely wonderful things too. Yeah. Did you want me to continue on, like the death and dying thing, or the elemental thing? I'm trying to
Sure, in a minute. I just saw this, and I thought this was pretty cool.
Okay, I'm trying to see here with
it says Lynn Monet, whether someone has a block in their mind, a break in their heart, a hole in their soul, a tear in their beer. pertaining to everything that you were saying.
Yes. Again, there was that old saying, fake it until you make it.
Right.
There are, even if you are in the middle of crying and you stop for a minute and you fake a smile, there are endorphins that are released that go to your brain in that smile that even your brain doesn't understand that you're faking it. So it responds as if you're really doing it, and it actually can help elevate your spirit, and it can also help elevate your energy. So it's not so much, and I'm sorry if you are feeling that way and if you're going through all of that. I'm very, very sorry. But it's not how you're feeling, it's how you handle it, how you look at situations, how you handle your feelings, if that makes sense. It
Yes.
is okay. It is okay to grieve. However, grieving for 5 years, as deep as you're grieving when you initially have the loss, needs to be shifted a little bit, because we don't die. And not only that, there's such a finality to death, because the spirit leaves the body gets left here in the earth, which is something else I've learned with the elementals, that actually the earth creates the body, which makes sense, and then the soul comes in. But there's such a finality to death and people, and it's like scary for everybody. And really, we don't die. We shed and go. We never die. And if you want to come from a scientific thing, energy can't be created or destroyed. We are electric and water. Literally, that is what we are made of, is electric and water. There's a synapse in the heart that every time it beats under a microscope, it makes light. So we're a mix of the two, and of course we have this skin over us as well. So it's really, really important that if you are suffering, go ahead and grieve. However, if you start going into too much of a dark place, you've got to be able to pull yourself out of it, even if you don't feel like it, if you fake it until you make it. So, and a lot of times you're being anchored by darker things who are feeding on your negative emotions, and you can break free of that by faking it until you make it. So that's important for people to know. And when in doubt, radiate love from your heart. Even if your heart is broken, you can still radiate love out. If you have a pet, you still, even with a broken heart, you still love your dog or cat or your kids. You know what I'm saying? Or your husband or your significant other or your mother, or whoever the person. You have the ability to love with a broken heart, is what I'm saying. And you need to shift into that ability to have that love. Have compassion for yourself, love yourself, but have that ability to shift in for spiritual protection, so that you don't go deeper into that darkness than you might already be. So, and that is so important. That really, some of the stuff that's going on is kind of scary in the ethereal realms and in the interdimensional things right now, because they're fighting for their lives. They're trying to anchor people here so that they have entertainment, because all of us are this vibrational thing. All the sun flares and the different things that we're going through is elevating up, and more people are going to start seeing elementals. I've even been told that the Aztecs are still on Earth. They didn't disappear, but they learned a way to elevate their frequency so we can't see them, but they're here. The elementals are here. They've never. We have a whole bunch of other species, isn't the word, but other dimensional beings that live on this earth with us, that we just can't see because our vibration is so much lower than theirs. So as our vibration elevates, we're going to start to see those things, and they're going to come in with their purpose that they were originally intended to do. In the in elemental realms, it's to help humans. That's what their purpose is. So they come in to assist. Unfortunately, so many times they've been abused by humans or taken advantage of, that they have backed away, and they've become angry a lot of times, which which I, as I'd mentioned, I inherited a house with one that is quite charming, and he wasn't at first. He was a little turd, but he's charming now, and he's actually evolved because of the love and compassion. He's actually evolved, and he's doing a lot of things on the other side as well for humans, and I'm very proud of him for that. So, yeah.
I hope he's listening.
Oh, he listens. He's around, whenever. He knows
awesome.
that I'm proud. He knows that I'm very proud of him. And a lot of people have seen him. I mean, they're starting to see him, and they're sending a lot of beautiful, beautiful, beautiful beings, the sentinels and the undines and the night fae and the beautiful blue, the blue spirits. I mean, there're just so many gorgeous, gorgeous things that he brings in with him that are very fantastic, and the animal spirits too. So,
are the blue spirits orbs?
The blue spirits, there are some blue spirits that are orbs. I have pictures of those that I actually took on the property in Louisiana, and also some that I took in Florida, where you can actually see the being inside. And these beings, they use, what I was told is they use this kind of it's like a bicycle looking thing that they have inside of the orb that you can actually see in some of the pictures that I have, that they use as a tool to travel with. And then they land, and they some of them, there are the other ones that look like blue fire that actually stand up and walk, and they're under 2 feet tall, and they're very beautiful. And they carry a basket, and they have rabbit type ears that go up, and you can see the rainbow between the rabbit ears of where even they're communicating, where the energy from their head is going back and forth between the rabbit type ears. So yes, some of them do travel in orbs. I mean, they can manipulate the veils between the dimensions, and they can mask themselves out, and they can also be nasty little shits. So depending on which one you get, and where they are at in their evolvement at that time. So
for, say, the last 6 months, have you been staying on this or in this direction?
I have been going in more of the Fae direction. With my sister's house, because it was, like I said, we thought that it was haunted. My son and I went in, and we went to clear it. My sister, prior to her passing, have I mentioned this to you before?
Yeah. I think your sister passed.
Yeah, my sister had passed, but prior to her passing, she thought that the house was haunted, or maybe that somebody was even doing some kind of hoodoo and voodoo. And people, beware, there are people doing some of that black magic stuff. And it's real. So, she kept trying to clear it herself with incense and different symbols of religion to protect her. She even went to the darker side at one point, thinking that it would clear it that way, and it never left. And the thing is that she had inadvertently picked up. Did I tell you the story about the rock?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. Go ahead and repeat it.
Okay. My sister had inadvertently picked up this heart-shaped, about as big as my hand, ugly rock. It was like this grayish color with a little bit of brown. It was ugly. It was an ugly rock. It was like nothing wonderful about it. And she had brought it into the house and sat it with her crystals, and I don't know why, but apparently this rock belonged to this being who he calls himself a rock-un, UN. He corrects me because I say rockin'. He says, no, it's not rockin', it's rock-on. I'm like, okay. But apparently a rockin' is a child of the rocks. And that whole area where she lived and where her house was is his responsibility. And his father was a rockin', and his mother, which is everything below the soil. It's all of the rocks, the crystals, anything below the soil. And then his mother was of everything above the soil, of the trees and the grass and the plants. And normally the two don't mix. but his parents fell in love, and so he's actually biracial, for lack of a better word, or bi whatever you want to call it, which is unusual, and which is why he has a little bit of features of both of some of the things. He looks a little bit more like a Rockin than the mom one, but like his hair looks more like roots instead of things like that. But um, he um, he was very angry with my sister for stealing his rock because that was his precious. I mean, so many things I've been told about the rock that he loved it. I mean, so he was torturing my sister. He actually, I think, created her demise and created her. She kept getting sick and sicker and sicker, and then she went to the hospital, and then they ended up killing her. But anyway, he created some of that, and people say to me, well, how come you aren't angry with him or whatever? And the thing is if you think about it, if somebody took your child or your precious and kidnapped it away from you, I'm sorry, I'd want the person dead too. I want my kid back. You know what I'm saying? So, if you put yourself in the shoes, in their shoes and understand it in that way, and plus my sister was already gone, that was a fact. There was nothing I could do to change that. And here I'm dealing with this situation that either I have to leave because they're not leaving, or I have to find a way to make nice. So anyway, after my son and I went through the house to clear it, and I'll back up just a little bit. In my immediate family, there are 6 of us. I am the only one left. My mother, father, 2 sisters, my brother are all gone. My father was married previously, so I have a half sister and a half brother. And so my sister Mary, who is my half sister, but she's a whole sister to me, came to my sister's house to help me sort some of the things. And she was upstairs sleeping in my sister's bed, and all of a sudden I hear her humming hymns and praying out loud, and it went on for like an hour and a half, and I'm like, well, geez, that's a strange bedtime ritual. I hope she doesn't do this every night because I can't sleep because she's carrying on. So the next morning when she got up, I asked her, I said, did you sleep okay? And she said, I was sleeping and I woke up and there was this wreath of faces floating over my bed, and I was praying and singing hymns to make it go away, and it wasn't going away. And I'm mentioning this for a reason. So it turns out that those faces were with who we call Bob, because his name is blah, 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 and I can't pronounce it. So I said, well, can't we call you something like Tim or Bob or Harry? And he's like, Bob is okay. So we call him Bob. They were spirits that he had collected along the way. And I mistakenly thought that he had collected them for his entertainment. I was totally wrong, which I found out after the fact. But anyway, moving forward, after my sister left, my son and we went through and cleared the house. I use a fire component and go through. I let the spirits know that they have the opportunity to leave on their own with the cracked door. If they choose not to leave, they're going to get sucked in the fire because it sucks in the oxygen. They're going to get stuck in the bottom of my pan. And they do. And then you take it to a river and you rinse it out going away from you, and it carries all of that away. So we did that, and we did collect a few things. There were a few little things left energetically, and maybe a spirit or 2 in the house. So we thought that we had cleared it and we had finished. And my son is standing in the master bedroom doorway, and I'm standing in the upstairs bathroom doorway, and we're talking afterwards. And all of a sudden, we see out of this 3rd bedroom, coming out past me, going past my son and going into the master bedroom, I'm looking at this thing, and it's under 3 feet tall. It's got this blocky little head and these ears that are kind of up and pointed and a big nose. And I'm like, that looks just like one of the bankers on Harry Potter. I'm thinking this. And all of a sudden my son says to me, he said, did you just see Hogwarts go by? And I said, yes. And lo and behold, he comes back out past my son, past me, back into that 3rd bedroom. And then he comes out one more time. The 3rd time that he came out, there was a misting, which of course we all know are portals. They're ectoplasmic portals that are created for spirits. And in that was the wreath of the faces floating that my sister had seen over the bed a couple of nights before. So anyway, I'm like, okay, there's something else here. What we did obviously didn't work. I don't understand why it didn't work. but it's not working with this, and this thing's not human. So I had reached out to Brian Bowden and Jim Rupert. Jim lives in South Carolina, and Brian was in Florida. The house is in Louisiana. So I reached out to both of them. They both told me pretty much the same thing, that there was something coming up from the ground underneath the house, that it was coming up into underneath the stairwell, going up from the ground into a bedroom, and that there was something in there that belonged to it that it wanted. And all of a sudden, the light bulb just went on, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute. It's got to be that rock. Previously, I had been looking for my sister's end-of-life directives, of which it turned out she had none. So while I'm in the room going through her file cabinet, throwing things away that I don't need, trying to make, get things starting to get in order, and she had crystals on top, there was this rock. When I picked up the rock, I was going to throw it away. I thought, well, yeah, look at this ugly rock. I wonder why she's got it here with all of these crystals. When I touched that rock, the energy from that rock shot up my arm, and it was like my teeth were on fire. It went up that fast, and I dropped it. And I'm like, ooh, I'm not going to do that again. And I didn't think, yeah. And I'm like, I didn't think about it a second time until they mentioned it, that he was coming up into a bedroom or a room up in the second floor, because there was something there of his. And I'm like, is it that rock? I said, I bet it's that rock. So the very next day, I talked to him, like, well, what do I do with this? I'm like, what do I do? And one of them has suggested that I remove it from the inside of the house and take it, because they were doing remote viewing, and they knew that there was like this shed building behind a great big, like 15-foot by 15-foot shed thing in the back. And they said, take it in there, take it there away from the house and return it. And you might want to give an offering, like a bell or something, and hang it over, because they like, music and things like that. So the next morning, my son takes the rock. And I have to tell you this too. I was sleeping on the couch. My son slept in the recliner. Neither one of us wanted to sleep in my sister's bed after my other sister, Mary, had the things floating over her bed.
Yeah.
So when I woke up, my hair was all tied in knots, because they do that. And I didn't know that. And my son's underwear, he was wearing underwear and shorts, but he went to go and take a shower and find some clean ones, and those were missing. So they were things were being moved around in the house. And like I said, my hair, literally, I had tied knots in my hair. So that morning, my son gets up and he collects the rock. He comes down the stairs and he goes to take it outside. And I see Bob standing behind him, flinging like vines around my son's legs, trying to stop him from taking the rock, because he didn't understand what we were doing. And so my son said to me, he says, gosh, my legs itch really bad. I must have gotten bitten up by mosquitoes while I was sleeping. I said, no, that thing is behind you, putting vines on you, trying to stop you. And he went ahead and proceeded. And of course, I thought that Bob had collected the spirits for his entertainment. It turned out that he was collecting them to protect them, because some of them were souls that were so exhausted at their time of death, or that they remained wandering, helping other people, waiting for like their son or daughter to pass, so that they were caring for, and then they ended up getting stuck here, and they didn't have enough oomph to cross over on their own. So some of these spirits he had for hundreds of years, and that he was protecting them, because he knew that a lot of times when people don't cross over, there are darker things or dominant things that will come in and try to control the spirits. How many times do you go into a haunted house and sometimes there's a demon and they're controlling everybody, and the spirits are scared? You'll hear a whole room full of spirits. Oh no, we can't leave. The thing is coming. So that kind of thing. He was protecting it from that. It was my mistake that I assumed that he was doing something more sinister. So when my son went out the door, I opened the door wide and I said, Daddy's gone. Okay, y'all, it's time to cross. If you want to cross, I'm going to help you cross right now. And I was telling them to look up and connect with their cord. And a whole bunch of them are flooding out down the stairs and they're going out the door. And a few of them stayed. And I started thinking, oh, crap, this guy's going to be pissed off because I took his toys away. So anyway, then I spoke again to Jim, and they were telling me that, I need to set firm boundaries, because I didn't want the thing coming into the house and watching us. And the thing is that his name for me was fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, bitch, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. He would do that, and he would sit with his face between the openings on the stairs, and he'd say, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, and he'd just sit there with his feet dangling, and because he was angry. And so we finally explained to him, he loves beignets and he loves Oreos. So we found that out. But we told him, we negotiated with him, and I put things out on the counter. We had liquor and tobacco and some crystals and some things. And I'm like, look, if you stay out of the house while we're in here working, we're going to leave after 5 moons, five dark times, because their time is linear. They don't have, our time is linear. They have no time element over there. So the only way that I could explain it to him is I had to go count the dark times, because he knew that there was light, daylight, and dark. So he of course he tested that one time, and he didn't get his treat that day. So he learned real quick that I meant business. And he was intrigued too, because most of the time people couldn't see him and I could see him. So the day that we were supposed to leave, there was a leak in the sink upstairs. And I'm like, oh crap, we can't leave it. It'll eventually we'll have a huge hole in the first floor ceiling by the time we come back, in a month and a half or 2 months. So we had to get somebody to come and fix it, and they couldn't come until that evening. And so my son and I decided to go and get some lunch. We didn't mention to Bob that we were needing to stay an additional night. So we told him that once we leave, that he can come back in the house and do his usual things that he normally does. So we come back from lunch, and you can hear him coming up from the back of the house. He's in the house now, and he's grumbling he's cussing. He loves cuss words. The F word, the F bomb is his favorite one. So he's coming up, and it sounds like the Tasmanian devil on Bugs Bunny. Session, that all the sounds that the Tasmanian devil used to make. It, especially if you're my age, you would remember it. Young kids today wouldn't know who that was, but that grumbling sound. And I'm like, oh my God, we forgot to tell him that we're here for one more day. So we again negotiated with him, asked him to exit out of the house. That night, my son was loading my sister's truck that I was going to drive back to South Carolina with some very heavy things. And he goes out, and I hear all of these obscenities. And I thought, oh my God, did he hurt himself? So I run to the front door. And when I open the front door, my son's face is right there. And I said, what happened? And he's like, what? And I said, well, you were yelling out all of these obscenities. Are you okay? And he said, well, that wasn't me. And I said, well, did you hear it? And he said, no, he didn't hear it. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, I don't know what it was then. Maybe somebody with their radio or something driving past the front of the house. So the next morning, we get up and we are getting ready to leave. My son starts the truck, and he's putting in my phone charger so that I can use the GPS on my phone to get home. And he also has his vehicle started because his battery was a little bit low. And I'm standing out on the front deck, and I hear, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. And again, I walk over to the truck, and the door's open. And I said, what's the matter? And he says, what? And I said, why are you again, why are you verbalizing these obscenities? And he's like, it's not me. And then we both heard, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. Bob was standing in the doorway of the shed, wanting us to make sure that we kept our end of the deal. And he was afraid that we were going to leave and not give him what we had promised. So he was getting our attention. So we went in and we gave him what we promised and told him that we were leaving and that have at it, that we will be back in a certain amount of time, that, we're not going to bother him. But things evolved from there into some very, very beautiful things. He literally fills the yard with spirit animals at night that are just gorgeous. And he takes these rocks and crystals in the yard and he places them so that the yard has these energetic, where gold connects with from rock to rock, and then there's a silver thread from rock to rock, then a blue one, all over the yard. It looks like a patchwork quilt, only instead of squares, they're triangles. And they're portals for other things to come in through. It's funny because when I went to the Gettysburg Bash in Pennsylvania, and I'm driving there and I can see Bob in the back seat of the car, and he's sitting there with his feet shifting back and forth like a 2-year-old and like little windshield wipers. And he's just got this shit-eating grin on his face, and he's watching it. He's riding in my back seat, and I'm like, oh, hello. He's there. So while I'm at the Gettysburg Bash, I had 2 psychics come up to me and they said, you have a little boy following you around. And I'm like, yeah, I know, because he's male. Yeah, but he's as old as the earth. He was created at the time of the earth. And the thing is about Fae is that they don't reincarnate. They just live a very, 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 very long time. So he's been, like I said, ever since the earth was created. And that's something about that rock that I'll tell you. But I want to finish the story first. So then I'm closing up my booth, and Bryden Bowden walks up and he says, because I had 2 chairs there and I'm closing up, and he said, Bob's sitting right there. And I said, yeah. And he says, and he's shifting his feet. And he's got a shit-eating grin on his face, because that was his thing. He was like a little kid with his feet, because they wouldn't hang over the chair because he was so short. So he would just sit there and shift him like a little kid in a car seat, back and forth. And I said, yeah, he is there. So people were able to see him as well. And I've had people out to the house that were able to see him peeking through the door at them, curious while they were making their coffee in the kitchen. Saw me come in, he disappeared out quick because he knew that meant no beignets or Oreos that day. So, what else was I going to tell you? There was something else that I deterred from before that I was going to tell you. Oh gosh, I don't remember. It'll come back to me. But the rock. He explained that the rock was a piece of Mother Earth's when she was originally created. And he said that there were 5 of them throughout the world. And he actually collected all 5 pieces, and they're somewhere on the property. When we finally asked him when we were going to take it out of the shed, I said, where do you want this? Do you want it on the ground in the dirt? Do you want us to leave it here on this pedestal thing with your bell? He wanted us to put it out underneath a tree in near the front yard. And I'm like, but everybody can see that. He's like, no, they won't. He said, they won't see it. They'll camouflage it. They won't even notice it. And he's right. I mean, I've had lawn people and everything there, and they walk right past it, and it's sitting right there. But the thing is he told me that the rock actually, he loved stories, and that the rock actually would tell him stories of ancient times. It also played music, and he said there's also something magical about it that I can't share with you at this time. So I've made a point whenever I go to when I go mining and I get crystals from the ground, I'll bring a little bit of the dirt too, from like inside of volcanoes and stuff like that has not been touched. Or I'll pick up things like I got turquoise from Mexico, and I got this other piece of something from Madagascar. And I bring them to him hoping that they'll tell him new stories. You know what I mean? Because he loves stories, and that's why his rock was a piece of something very precious. And the sad part about it is that Christianity has demonized the Fae and elementals, but the Fae and elementals, they have emotions like ours. They experience grief and loss. Bob had 2 different rabbits. One was a brown rabbit, the first one. The second one was a white rabbit, and he just loved that white rabbit. That was his companion. The rabbit went everywhere with him. And when and it was a physical rabbit. When the rabbit finally passed away, he even said that he grieved so much the loss that he wished that he had gone with his rabbit. And the reason why I'm mentioning this is because if they were demons, they would not have the ability to, I mean, they feel joy, they feel happiness, they're able to love, they grieve loss just like we do. And demons can't do that. They can't. They can't love, they can't feel joy, and they don't grieve loss. They relish in it. So it's sad that they've been demonized technically by some of the religions, and also it's a boogeyman thing, just like ghosts are. Oh, they're not real. I got news for you. Fairies are real, but they don't have wings. They self-propulse in the air. A lot of them come in with the monarch butterflies. You'll see them detach, and it's like a little piece of what is that, orzo? The grain that's bigger than rice. It's a little bit bigger than rice, but they're colored like the orange and the black, like the monarch butterfly. And you will see them detach, and they will hover in the air like a helicopter. They move like a helicopter, but there are no wings. They somehow self-propulse. So the Elizabethan area were the ones that actually did the Tinkerbell thing and put the little skirt and wings on the fairies, but they don't look like that. They look different. And also dragonflies are sea nymphs, not sea nymphs, water nymphs that come to the surface and evolve into something more physical. The dragonflies, the spirits of our family, come in with. So a lot of times, like sometimes I see a blue one and a green one side by side. I know that those are my sisters because one had green eyes, one had blue eyes. And then I'll see the rest of the family come in. So a lot of times our family spirits come in on the dragonflies. And there's so many things that he has taught me. He said that if you expectorate on a seed, like a vegetable plant, if you expectorate on the seed before you plant it into the ground, that seed has the ability to analyze your saliva, and any deficit that you have within your system, your body, it notes that, so that when you plant it, it will grow that substance in it, so that when you eat it, you can balance out your system. And I thought that was, I mean, you can't make this stuff up. You know what I'm saying? And it makes sense too, about that. And he's, I mean, I've learned so many things, just so many things, and got to meet so many elementals that he's brought forward, and just beautiful, beautiful things. They're very charming. And a lot of people are like, oh, they can be nasty. Oh yeah, they can be nasty. He took my sister out, but I understand, and my sister's in a better place, and she had suffered for a long time. So she's happy where she is. I know that. I feel her around me more than when she was alive. She was states away, and now, she's around me all of the time. But yeah, they're very, very misunderstood. However, they are coming back. And people, because they're vibrating in the fifth dimension energy, as we elevate, we're going to start seeing them. More people are going to start seeing them everywhere. So get ready, people. You got some beautiful stuff to see. And yeah, leave them a little something. They like that. They don't ask for it. And the thing is they don't. To thank them is almost an insult because of the way that they see things. So instead of thanking them, you leave them a little treat or an offering, because really all that they want is to help and to receive. Bob was telling me that he had a farmer that he was helping at one point on land, and Bob also had these 5 trees in the backyard where there's a portal that he goes through to England and Europe and all over. He actually went over one time and was knocking on all of the Fae's door, little areas, telling them that he met some humans, and to be sure to stop in and see the humans because they're not afraid, and they're nice and they'll talk to you. So my son has had some really, really interesting things, happen that way, of things that have just popped in and said, hi, Bob told us that you would, that you wouldn't be afraid of us, and we're just popping in to say hello. And then they explained what their job was. Like one set of them that popped in was, they looked like Smurfs, but they had icicles, that they were in charge of the runoff water off of the melting water off of the mountains. Was their job, was to route it. But yeah, there are just so many, beautiful things. Bob was telling me though about the farmer, that that the farmer would give him his half, but he would say to him, so, do you want what grows above the ground as your part, or what grows below the ground? And Bob would pick one. And if Bob picked, he wanted what grew above the ground, the farmer, to be nasty, would plant carrots. So then the next time Bob would pick what grows below the ground, and then he would grow green beans or peas, just to be nasty. And so they learned to distrust the humans because of their naughty behavior. And not only that, even when they talk about the Native Americans used to feed the puckwedgies to the giants so that the giants wouldn't come and eat their tribes. And so, there was a lot of betrayal on our part. And so when I was approached to write the book in order to gap between the bridge between the Fae and the humans, I said to him, I said, are you sure? Are you sure? Because, the way the mentality of the humans are right now, you're going to become a pet or like a genie in the bottle. And people are going to place expectations on you. And then if you don't do it exactly right, then I said, do you even want to come into this drama? I mean, people aren't, they have so many expectations and demands on things. Are you sure that you want to come into this? And they're like, yes, because the times are changing, and the people that are elevating will see them, and they will know to have that respect, and they will not be in that frame of mind where they will do things to them that are, that are awful. So, hi, Linda. So,
Linda says a few days ago, her Carl, who passed in December, has been
so
amplifying people's voices so that I hear them talking about ADHD or PTSD information.
mm-hmm.
I overheard them speaking louder.
Yeah, they can do that. Absolutely. And if he's talking about ADD and post-traumatic stress, I'm sure that he's probably relating to the energy blocks that we get within our system that are caused from even, childhood things. And there are cures for those, which is wonderful. There's right now I'm going to school. That's another thing I'm doing. I'm going to school for this MACE energy method, which helps shift it. It's like counseling on steroids, but you don't have to come in and spill your guts, because really going to counseling and spilling your guts is detrimental, because everything that you think and you say goes into the universe and recreates itself for your future to come back. So you don't want to talk about, some of the horrible things that you went through in the past, or your loved one cheating on you or something, because the universe doesn't have discernment that way to understand even jest or joking. So when you put that stuff out there, you need to choose your words wisely. They come back. This type of energy works with the post-traumatic stress and the ADHD. And actually the ADHD people, the kids, their vibration is higher than ours. It's not that they have those problems. It's just that they don't function well in the 3D. When the energy elevates, they're going to be the ones that are normal, and the rest of us are going to be the ones that are having a few problems. So, but with the post-traumatic stress, there are blockages that create anxiety, or when things are triggered at certain points. And what this MACE energy does is it goes in and allows you to remove those blockages. You don't have to talk about it. You don't have to say what it is. It brings you into a mental state where you're able to travel yourself and offload baggage. So, and a lot of times you only need one session. You can go to a counselor for 6 years and still not be done with it. It helps with addiction too. It helps with addiction, or people that are recovering from addiction, or even long time. It goes in there because the addiction is not you personally, your energetic soul is intact. So you are not, how can I put it? When people say, oh, well, I'm an alcoholic and da 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 da. No, you're not an alcoholic. You that is something, that is one of those ridges that you've accepted as something that is yours, and it's not. So you have to, you can offload it, and it helps a lot with things like that. So but anyway, that's what I'm doing too. But I am writing the books on Bob, and yeah, I mean, I have such a different understanding of so many things. And I've been kind of focusing on the Fae and elemental realms more so than the paranormal lately, because I didn't know anything about it. I knew nothing, and then I was thrown into it, and I figured there's a reason that I was thrown into it. And Linda, I'm sorry for your loss too, sweetie. Um, but it's such a beautiful world, and I feel so honored to be able to see the intimate, intricate insides of that, that those realms. There's a beautiful queen that comes. She looks like an elegant deer when she lays down, and when she stands up, she walks on upright. She doesn't walk on all fours, and she looks like a walking log with a head, and then these antler things that are branches that come off of her head. But when she lays down, she does look like a beautiful, graceful deer. And she's the queen that's over the night fae that come in every once in a while, and they create mounds in the backyard that they come and go from. I mean, I've been told so many things, like about the crystalline cities deep in the ocean. I've been told about the bioluminescent beaches that the night fae live on, that they come and go on. And the funny thing is I got to ask the night fae, why is it that you pick the night? And it was funny what they told me. They told me that they prefer the night. And also what they do is they help sick animals. They help animals find food. They help, animals cross over if they need to. They do that sort of thing. But the reason why they prefer the night versus the day is because the trees are quite the talkers, and they're noisy. So the night they prefer to the nighttime because the trees are sleeping. I thought that was funny, type thing, because that's what they said. Well, during the daytime, the trees are quite the talkers. So, and they've got that intricate root system that's like a telephone, like the old time telephone with the operator kind of thing, where they communicate to one another underneath the ground. So everything has energy and everything has life to it. Hopefully people can look at things and have a different take on it. Be careful about picking up rocks, because you might be picking up something that belongs to somebody else. And you know so I mean, even those things, I mean, it's just, oh my gosh, I could go on and on. The crystalline cities and the oh my gosh, so how they make light, how the night they make light is they have this leafed seed thing that they use, and inside of it they put another seed, and they rotate it around and around really, really fast, and the seed on the inside makes light. So it makes like a little lantern of light for them for nighttime, the Fae do. And the crystalline cities in the ocean, there are 3 different buildings. One creates everything that they need. Another one is for meditation and spirituality. Another one is for contact to the stars, for that matter. And they don't eat food there like what we eat, but they have a small round ball that is flavored that they make, and they call it a toy. And they give it to the children. And because they don't eat things, it's fun for them to experience the flavors of these balls, because they don't eat. And so that's why it's considered like a toy, more so than like something that they would eat and digest, because it's all different there. But they actually have cities that's just kind of like what we live in, with houses and this in that central area are the 3 big buildings. And I mean, I've learned so much about things that, I mean, that blow my mind. When I was asked to write these books, I was told, because I said, look, I don't know anything about the Fey and elemental realms. Nothing, zero, zilch. I've met Bob. I'm learning a few things. It still creeps me out a little bit sometimes because, they all look kind of different, and I'm not used to their antics, but they carry such joy with them that it just vibrates and fills the room in a beautiful way when they're present and they're together and having a wonderful time. But what was I saying? There was something before that I was talking about.
I think it
Candy.
fits in with the works of the books that you're writing.
Yes, that's right. And so I told them, I said, I don't know anything. And they said, that's okay. We'll give you the downloads. Man, have they given me some downloads. No joke. I also told them too at the time, I said, look, if you want me to focus in on these books, you better pay my bills because, let me tell you what, everything that they promised, they said that they would. I kid you not, I go last year, I file my income taxes. I have a return of a couple $1,000s coming back. They told me that there was a delay in the government, that it could take up to a month for me to get my money back. I had that money in my account in 3 days. They told me that they would, and they have kept their word about everything. There was money that I was had been waiting for 2.5 years, and it came through all of a sudden. So they have kept their word with everything to me that they promised that they would. And so I'm writing the books, and they're, like I said, it's mind blowing. It's mind blowing, but people are going to be more accepting of it, and they're going to understand it better because they're going to start seeing it. So anyway, I feel very honored to be chosen to do that.
If we could go ahead and take her hand and put it on top of the book and just absorb it, talk to them about that, please.
What do you mean? Put the hand on the book and absorb it?
Instead of reading it.
Yes, you know what, and we are going to be able to do that when the energy shifts. You won't need to read books anymore because the knowledge will come to you already. School's going to basically become something obsolete because the children that are being born as of December of this past year are already advanced. They are coming in ready for this this time frame and this stuff, where they already know, and they know it in the way that it really happened, not the way that we are told that it happened, which may or may not be true or may have a lot of pieces left out. But yes, they're going to be engaging, and their mind, it's going to be a mind like what you have when you are on the other side, where it's just all knowing and and that sort of thing. And yeah, you absorb it. Exactly. You won't even have to put your hand on a book. You can if you want, but I'm just saying, I mean, you can even just look at it and all of a sudden it just, it comes to you.
I think it just makes, to me, it's an energy type thing.
It is.
And that's why I pick it up that way.
Yeah, well, and a lot of other people do too, but I'm saying it's just, yeah, these kids that are coming in now, wow, they're really going to be bringing in this new time frame and the elevation of things. But yeah, that's kind of that in a nutshell. But yeah, I mean, and I don't know how much more time we have or if we even have any time, and I don't want to hog the whole conversation. I love being here, getting to talk to you.
I could just listen to you all night long.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you.
You have always been that way.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I appreciate
it. There's not a lot of people that I take verbatim, but you're one of those special ones.
Oh, well, I'm honored. Thank you so much.
And
Thank you.
That's the kind of thing that carries me and helps me, because I'm no different than anybody else. And every chance we get, to go ahead and understand something that we had no idea about, let alone know what it was for. This makes a lot more sense. There's people that I wish we still had that have gone, but I know that it's not the case that they're not here. They're still here.
Yes, they
You
are.
remember Dr. Mike?
Oh, I miss Dr. Mike, but he's still around too. As a matter of fact, I can feel him right now. As
Yeah,
soon as you mentioned his name, I can feel him right now. He's
Lynch
smiling.
Lynch is right around us.
Oh,
He
yes,
always
he
is.
is. He
And
is. What an amazing man.
he was unbelievable. But you are too.
Oh, well, thank you so
And
much.
we're gonna cut it out. We can go 10 more minutes. We can leave at 11 if you'd like.
I'm
If you
good. I'm good either way. I just don't want to bore people too much or have
no,
them,
you're not.
getting
I
sleep.
don't think you're. There's so many people that are learning things.
Well,
You
I'm
know,
glad.
so we're gonna, if it's possible, between your show and my show,
Hmm.
once we get this little whatever it was that was going on with the mercury or whatever, you know, we get that solved. I would love to continue this in that respect
It would
because
be.
it's important.
It is. It would be my pleasure, and I plan on having you on my show as well. So, I'll definitely let you know coming up. Probably more towards the end of the month. We're trying to get things going. They're shifting some things and changing some things, and they're having a little bit of trouble, probably because of Mercury retrograde. So once they get all of their stuff laid out smooth, then they're going to bring me in too. So, but I would love that because people need to know you're going to see these things walking around that are under 3 feet tall. Now, the queen mother usually stands about 5 feet tall with her head, and then her antlers kind of go beyond that. She's the tallest one that I've seen. And the thing about Bob, too, is because of the love and compassion that has been shown to him, he has evolved into a beautiful being that is actually helping to do things, good things for humanity with the elevation of this energy on the other side. And he kind of comes and goes. He's not on the property as much as he used to be. He comes when I come there, but he peeks in. He doesn't have to stay there. He rides in my car. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes. So he hasn't done that lately because he's really, really intense with all of the shift things and everything that are coming so close to the time where they're actually going to shift into that. The days are speeding up, the vibrations are speeding up, time is speeding up. So they're trying to get everything in order for all of us for when that time comes. But if you notice it, don't assume that it's a child. It might be a fae wandering through your house. And if you have a haunting that you have tried to clear and it's not leaving, it may not be a ghost. It may it may be an elemental, and let me tell you, they can be nasty. So until they're it shows that their hearts are, even though they've had to go through some things with humans that were so betraying and unpleasant, that they still have that ability to open their heart and have acceptance and forgiveness. So, but you just have to find out what they like.
I
The
think
night.
I think there's a lot of teams,
Hmm.
paranormal teams that go out and do private investigations. And these people need to listen. Whether or not they accept it or not is their business, but it just makes so much more sense to go in there fully armed compared to half armed.
That's true. That is true. And to be honest, they can't remove the fae. So
Right.
you leave or you negotiate, and you come to terms with it, and you treat them like an equal. You show them respect, you know what I'm saying, and compassion, mostly because they have to melt a little bit first, and that persona that they've had to put on them to protect themselves from humans, because humans have been so awful to them.
Right.
that way, and to earn their trust and to be consistent. The main thing is to keep your word and
Are you
no.
going? So, just for everybody that's here, are you doing any other big events this year, like the Gettysburg Bash
I'm thinking about that. I am thinking about doing that one. I was,
again?
well, I'm thinking about it. The reason why is last year I did go. Um, um, and I had a good time. Let's put it that way. But my table was put all the way in the very, very back, so nobody even knew I was there. And people would then come through past my table and they're like, oh, well, I wish I had known you were here. You have beautiful things that, I bring beautiful crystal wands and things like that. And they're like, I already spent all my money. So, and it wasn't about the money. And I did offer to be a speaker there, but they, I don't know why they were going to call me and have me come and do an event there, and then somehow it just didn't happen. So I'm not sure if I'll be. It'll depend on who all else is going. I would love to see other people. Cisco, if she goes, I would love to see her. If you go, I would love to see you. I would love to see a lot of the people. Because of my surgery that I had, that I kind of had to take a break from things a little bit. I also have another surgery that's coming up. And when we finish, I want to talk to you off camera just for a few minutes.
Sure.
I'm just now booking again the different things, and I want to focus on the podcast that I'm getting ready to start. But I'm in the process of finishing the house in Louisiana. I am going to use it as an Airbnb, but during the months that there are no bugs, I'm going to do a retreat so that people can actually come out that are of like mind and experience the beautiful energy of the Fey realms, get to, if they have the ability to elevate their energy, get to engage with them. They're very curious, and um, yeah, they love getting to look through your purse, getting to, come and, well, they want to know what everything is. When they come in, like, to a human house for the first time, they're like, we've never been in a human house where we've been able to wander. My son was on the computer and there was a whole bunch of them in the room, and a couple of them, one was like sitting on top of, he had one of those stacks because he had this fancy computer. So one was sitting on the stack, which was on the table with his feet dangling over, and a couple of them standing on there, and they're like, oh, what's that? You know what I mean? Like that childlike wonder, and well, this is a fork and this is what we eat with. Oh, well, why do you do that? You know what I'm saying? So there were, and a toothbrush. This is a toothbrush. We brush our teeth. Well, why do you do that? We use something like, we choose some kind of like weed grass or something for theirs, so it was very interesting in a childlike wonder way, and they're like that. So you get to engage with them in that way. And sometimes they bring some very beautiful things in, but I'm going to have groups for meditation. I'm going to have groups for classes. I'm actually going to be, I found a Hummer limousine because the bus is more expensive, but I found a Hummer limousine that will seat 20 people that will come and pick them up at the house and take them for a day in New Orleans. So people can go and have that visit in New Orleans for the day. Usually one day in New Orleans is enough because there's a lot of dark stuff there too, but then it will bring them back. So I'm also, it is a huge grassed a lot with an 8-foot fence all the way around it, a chain link fence. It's reinforced at the bottom because sometimes we get alligators in the yard, so we've had to reinforce it so that we don't get critters in the yard that way. But the one area is huge. I mean, and with the double entry on the gate, you can bring a Winnebago, or you can bring, camping stuff and actually line up out there. There's plenty of room for people to bring that sort of thing, or you can stay in the house if you want to do that. I mean, by the time I'm finished, it should sleep 13. So people can have their privacy in their rooms, and I'll do like a bed and breakfast kind of thing where I fix one meal, and then one meal, they'll have a meal outside that's Cajun or whatever, and then the other meal they'll provide for themselves. Like we'll do a cookout at night or something like that, and then one they can provide for themselves so that they can go and experience some of the cuisine. I mean, the people there, they talk funny and they drive way too fast, but there is food like no other there. They've got amazing food, and so you can enjoy that. I have people that are going to want to come in and do drumming classes, and maybe even get some jazz players to come in and play some jazz, because the New Orleans theme is all about that. And it's close enough also to a beautiful community in Lafayette, where there's a lot of areas that you can walk from place to place in a safe area and kind of go to the little shops and things like that, if that's your thing. So I'm trying to coordinate that. I'm also hoping to start teaching classes online, because a lot of people have asked about that as well. But I've had some monkey wrenches thrown in things because of my own health lately. So I'm, kind of recovering from that. And but these are coming up. These are coming up by the end of this year. I hope to have all of this launched and good to go. So
awesome. Lynn,
yeah.
Thank you very much
Oh,
for
thank you.
for an awesome show. You're always fantastic, and you didn't let anybody down tonight, that's for sure.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me. It's my pleasure. Always, you're like my brother from another mother. So, and Reggie too. I just absolutely love him. So I'm so glad to be back in touch. And yeah, let's not lose touch again. So
okay,
anyway, I send love and light to everybody.
And everybody in the chat, thank you very much for being here tonight.
Yes, thank you.
It was an awesome show, and send out the vibes and tell everybody to go ahead and rewatch this, because it's very, very important, to say the least.
Thank you so much.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and end it, and then I'll be right with you.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Let's get this going. Awesome.